Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm Jordan here with Alphy yet again. He's taking over my content.
It's all mine now.
Yeah, facts. And in this one, we're gonna be going over a tank video, which is why he's here, of course. So we're gonna be doing the best times to pick each Vanguard. And Alfie is a pro tank one above all player. For those of you that don't know him, he's currently on LG right now, and he's gonna be walking us through each tank and just telling us kind of like their counters, who they pair best with, that kind of stuff, and all leading up to the best times to pick them. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's start off with Emma, Alfie, because Emma, I feel like, is the tank that everybody kind of wants to know how to play. I feel like she's personally broken, but let me hear your thoughts. Does she have any counters as of right now?
For counters, as most people know, the beam is only like 10 meters. So a lot of why Emma is good is because once she gets that charge up, she's basically just a laser death beam character. So I would say counters for her are people that can keep their distance. So like a Hawkeye is good, Widow, Human Torch, and Storm would probably be my top picks. And if you're like on a coordinated team, I think Storm Torch is good into her. So that would be my looks because they just can't be hit. Like she can't do anything to them. So yeah. I think that would be the counters for me. And then for who she counters personally, I would say anything close range. So like Iron Fist, I'm sure you guys have been seeing a lot of him. Or like Psylocke. She's really good at peeling, so she's great anti-dive. I think she kind of takes the thing spot for anti-dive for that.
Yeah, do you think she pairs really well with the thing as like kind of like a frontline comp?
Depending on what's banned, for sure. I think Groot and Mag both have to be out of the game for it to fall to Emma Thing, personally. But it definitely can work with those certain bans.
Okay. And what maps do you think she is the best on?
I don't think she's necessarily map dependent because she doesn't have a kit that really relies on anything like dive or taking cover behind angles. So I would say you could pretty much just pick her on every single map and she'll excel pretty well.
What would you rate her in terms of like a tier list rating right now?
Tier list rating? Probably S tier. I think she's a top tank. You can pretty much pair her with any tank in the game. I would say best pairs are... I haven't exactly decided if she's better than Mag with Groot, because Groot Mag is like the best team comp from the last patch, tank-wise. And I think right now Groot Emma is in contention for that. I just don't know exactly where they land. So she's definitely up there as one of the top tanks in the game, and you can pretty much just pick her all the time. And I think she's the best solo tank, in my opinion.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I would say if you have to solo tank, I think she provides the most dynamic tank style and has enough like damage mitigation / self peel to live through a 2 tanks walking at you.
And do you think she excels more into trying to like anti-dive, like play the anti-dive, or do you think she excels more into sort of running at their backline because she's so hard to kill?
Bit of both. If you're playing into dive, you're going to be the guy that peels. Like if you have a Magneto or a Groot, they're going to hold the front line down. You're going to be the one to turn and help because you just have that damage to actually kill a diver like right away. But if you aren't playing into dive and you're playing into like a brawl v brawl meta, then your Emma will be the one that goes forward and takes a hard off angle, whereas your Magneto and Groot would do the same thing. They're going to stand there and hold down the space. So it just depends on which team comp you're playing against, I would say, for that.
Great. No, sounds good. Sounds fantastic. So overall, just to summarize, the best times to pick Emma would be...
I mean, honestly, you could just pick her like at any point. Yeah. I would say the only time you don't pick her is when Groot or Mag are open.
Yeah.
You could play one of those tanks, but I think if you don't have another tank, then she's probably the best solo tank. So I wouldn't like solo tank Groot over solo tank Emma.
Great. Gotcha. All right, let's move on to Hulk. Hulk got some buffs recently. We know some dive tanks got some buffs recently. What about him? So, first of all, his counters. What are some characters that counter Hulk?
So a big thing for Hulk is poking out his angle before he is able to engage. So characters like Star-Lord, Psylocke, Hela, if you can actually mark him, are really good. I would say, honestly, even with the buffs, Hulk still doesn't feel like he's in a great spot. He still kind of just gets demolished by those Psylocke characters, by that Hela. He's good into flyers, but he doesn't have enough uptime to really mark them. Like, if you have a torch, you can maybe tackle him and get a rando pick, but you could also just play Magneto and poke him out of the sky, or play a Hela and kill him. Like, doesn't really feel good to be a tank. I would say counters for him are just those uptime, like that Psylocke and that Star-Lord that just hard mark him out. He does good with Namor, obviously. Like, that's pretty much the only time you'd pick him. But I actually think that the turret is worse.
Really?
Because it's not, like, it doesn't do anything to divers anymore. It just does damage now. I think it does a little bit more damage, but it's still a killable turret. So the slow not being there makes it so much easier for like a Venom or a Psylocke to get on your backline and have that mobility to still get there, right? Like, they can cross the map freely now, even if they take a little bit more damage. So I think he's pretty mediocre overall.
Okay, gotcha. And who is he good into? Like, who does he counter? Well, I guess
I would say any kind of long range comp, but not like, he's pretty good into flyers. He doesn't necessarily have the uptime to fully counter them, but he's good into the Storm Torch team.
Right.
He's really good into Hawkeye. He's good at marking Hela, but Hela can like angle away and poke him out, but he's still good at doing that. And he's definitely good at countering Widow. I don't necessarily know how good Widow is right now overall compared to the characters, but those buffs have felt really good, and I've been seeing her a lot in ranked. So if she does become super strong, then maybe a Hulk to go marker on her off angle would be really good. So I would say into Widow, Hawkeye, Hela, he's still really good.
Now, if the I know you said that the Namor turret you think is worse right now, but if the team up is ever up, for example, Namor doesn't get banned and Hulk doesn't get banned, do you think you should kind of always be picking those two characters?
Nah, I think there's just better tanks.
Okay.
Namor is still pretty good by himself. Like, the team up does help Namor excel in his role, but I think because the tank lineup is so stacked right now with shield tanks and Groot and Venom and Thing, sadly Hulk just kind of falls behind. But I do think I forgot to mention this earlier, but another team, not necessarily team up per se, but a good comp can be Mag, Hulk, Iron Fist. And you play to Mag bubble the Iron Fist after his block, and then while he's staying in there, the Hulk jumps in and gives him another bubble. So it's basically just like double bubble Iron Fist. That can work pretty good because it's like a front to back brawl kind of dive. It's not like full dive. That's probably the best team, I would say, for the Hulk.
You're so dirty for that. You're just so dirty for that. Okay, and so like when you're talking about pairing with tanks, of course, you just talked about Mag. Is it best to pair him with main tanks, or is it best to pair him with other dive tanks, or does it really just depend on how your team, wants to play the game?
I think you pretty much always have to pair him with a main tank. So I think as of right now, I would only really play him with the Mag. I think you need a Mag because Mag just holds that space down, and the double bubble is kind of a main reason I would pick him. Like the Iron Fist, or even like a Star-Lord. If you're playing a Mag bubble the Star, you could also Hulk bubble him after, or playing a Mag bubble the Iron Fist. So I think Mag is the best tank. And then if you don't have a Mag, I'd say Emma would be the next best one. I think you have to ban Groot, has to be out of the game for Hulk to even be an option of a pick.
Gotcha. And what do you think are Hulk's best maps if he has any? Like, is there any map that you really wouldn't play him on?
I don't think he's necessarily map dependent. Okay. I think he does work good on maps like Shin Shibuya or the new map Krakoa. I feel like he has a decent amount of angles. Basically, if there's a map where you can jump in and jump out behind cover very easily. So maps that he wouldn't be great on would be Yggdrasil Path, where it's just all open, all narrow. There's not a lot of cover in a lot of these points. So that would be like the dynamic I would look at for feeling if he's good or bad. And sometimes it's point dependent. Like Midtown first point is very closed, and there's a lot of high ground where you can be dynamic as your character. And then Midtown second point is very open. It's pretty much just that one lane and that one high ground that isn't really a high ground at a certain point once it gets broken. So some maps he could be good at a certain point and then pretty bad at the second.
Okay, so overall, best time to pick Hulk would be like pair him with a main tank, whether that's going to be Magneto preferably or Emma Frost. Yeah. And then pick them on maps that are going to be or going to have way more cover, a little bit less open, that kind of jazz.
Somewhere you can duck in and out and keep your uptime, because he's pretty much just an uptime tank. Like, you need to constantly be playing for bubble plays, but if you're able to get poked out because the map's too open, then you can't go in, which just sucks.
Yeah. Are you mostly playing aggressive with Hulk, or are you playing a little bit defensive with that bubble?
I would say you're pretty much just always playing aggressive. If you're gonna just play peel tank, you might as well just play something like Thing or Thor or Emma or Strange or Penny Parker, like any other tank. Pretty much, he's basically the full committal, like dive uptime tank.
Great. No, sounds good. And where would you rate him for this season?
I would say probably B tier.
Okay.
Maybe leaning towards A, depending on bans. Like if every tank is open, he's B tier. And then if like Groot gets banned and maybe Mag or Emma are out, he gets closer to that A tier.
Okay, so maybe like a B plus tier kind of thing.
Yeah, like a B plus, I would say.
Okay. Speaking of dive tanks, what about Captain Mr. America? Is there any specific characters that counter Captain America? Please, I would love to know as a healer. Anything that would counter Captain America, and anything that Captain America is really good into?
So I'm gonna be honest, for Cap, the amount of experience I have playing into this character is like close to 0. I pick him a good amount, only to like stall point, of course.
Right.
I'm not really the dive tank player on our team, but I couldn't really say 100% with what like counters him, but flyers are good into him because he just can't do anything. So I would say Torch is probably the best meta pick right now that does good. He's kind of the same thing as Hulk. Like he's good into those sniper characters like a Hela, really good at marking Hela, really good at marking Hawkeye, Black Widow. I think Storm Torch does really good into him. I think Psylocke can do good because you can just poke him out. Star-Lord as well. Like these uptime characters that could just poke from kind of an off angle and then go for a flank or a bubble E play are good into him. And then what he does good into, kind of just mention it, those sniper characters, but he is a really solid dive tank now. That HP buff and that permanent 5% damage boost he gets from just having a better team up makes him feel pretty decent. I don't think he rivals Venom yet for an actual full committal dive comp, but if you're playing solo dive, I think he actually does really well. I think he's better than Venom at solo diving because he just has that self-sustain. He's got those 2 movement abilities where you're pretty much unkillable, that 400 shield where you could just always pull it up. So I think he's in a pretty good spot, honestly.
Yeah, I thought he had gotten some base nerfs this season, but then with the team up, I think it pretty much made those base nerfs go away, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he's definitely annoying. Best maps or not really? I mean, like you said, maybe just a stall point, right? That kind of stuff. Maybe he's good at domination.
I think he's a pretty good dynamic tank. You like right now, I haven't seen him be picked on purpose. Like, oh yeah, we run it with this and that, and that's our team comp. Like we play Mag Cap and we play Dive, but he is really good at stalling points. So that's just like any map, domination or payload. It works better on payload because normally you're just coming out of spawn. He is my go-to swap to stall. He is the best stall character. 700 health, 400 shield, which is effectively 1100 EHP, effective HP. And 2 different movement abilities, a jump where you're just like bouncing around. Like he's really good at stalling. So I don't really think he's map dependent. You can kind of just pick him. I would say focusing on like kill boxes, if you're going to play dive cap, sometimes you want the map to be a little bit more open so that way your team can connect. So I'm going to use Shin Shibuya as an example. Most healers play like in the arcade and just kind of sit in there. So it's kind of hard for your team to connect on the healers with you. So you're basically just going to be playing like attention trade cap, which is where you pull the healer's attention and your team kills frontline. But if you want to play that full dive cap with like a Psylocke or a Spider-Man or whatever is diving with you, then having a little bit more open space where they could actually connect and your Magneto or Emma or whatever your main tank is could walk with you would be good. So I think a little bit more open maps for him would feel better.
Okay. So best times to pick him would be on open maps. Definitely when you're stalling point, he's going to be the best when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then like with some other dive characters as well, just kind of like trying to kill the backline.
Yeah. I mean, for him, he is a dynamic diver, like I said, where it's either full dive or he's probably the best attention trade diver. I think he's a little bit better than Venom at that. So
yeah, that makes sense. And where would you rate him for this season?
I'm gonna go like high B with him as well. I almost said A, but then I thought about it, and there's some characters that I'd rather put in A that I think are better than him. So I don't want to like crowd the tier. Yeah. But he's close. He's very close, and I could be like wrong, and he's actually just like S tier. Like there's a world he's better than Venom at dive because he just has so much attention trade potential.
Yeah.
And maybe you just run like double poke like a hella Bucky and they just kill front while you just attention trade and distract the healers.
Yeah. And do you think he's better than Hulk?
Yes, definitely better than Hulk.
Okay.
I think he's just better than Hulk.
We'll put him in front. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is next up on this list. Doctor Strange. We all know you're the Strange main. Any counters to Strange, and then who Strange counters?
Yeah, so Strange is kind of in a bad spot right now, unfortunately. I wouldn't really pick him. Definitely counters are any long range character. He does not do good into Hawkeye, into Hela, into Torch, into Storm. I know I'm kind of like bringing up these characters a lot, but those are basically just the main things that either counter these brawl tanks and that are actually good. I haven't seen a lot of Hawkeye, but I know he's decent for sure. Yeah. He does really good into brawl. So if they're running like a Bucky, he does pretty good. If they're running Groot, he's like okay because he's got that shift. But I don't know. Honestly, he's just fallen off with the implement of Emma. That extra shield tank just feels too strong.
Yeah, and she just kind of like one shots off her kick for some reason. But that's all right. No,
just choke slam the Strange and he can't even ult.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Any maps in particular that he's better on than others? Do you think?
No, he's pretty much like a neutral character. I think the only time you're really picking Strange is when Magneto and Emma are both out of the game. He's like the third shield tank you fall back to, or in triple tank. He's needed in triple tank, and you basically just have your one of your DPS players pick him, so that way you could, like on Midtown, for example, play at the first spawn door, hold the point, then TP, and then hold the point again, and then your DPS guy switches off or plays for an ult.
Gotcha. And so wait, do you think he's actually better in a triple tank comp right now than he is in like a double tank comp? If assuming all tanks are open?
Okay. Yes, I actually think that triple tank on defense on payload might just be like hard meta if those certain characters are open. Like if Groot gets banned and you have Mag, Emma, Strange, you're like 3 shields that can just stand there. And I do think Strange got a buff to his space taking capabilities, and then obviously a nerf to his damage because he got like 100 extra HP. So he does feel pretty decent when those characters are out, like the Mag or the Emma, but he is just worse than those two, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Yeah. So no reason to pick him over those two at all.
Yeah, no reason to pick him in like a 2-2-2 comp, I would say, unless those two are banned. But in a triple tank comp, I think he's just necessary because you're going to be TPing back to the defend the payload.
Yeah, that's fair. And so with all that being said, where would you rate him?
Let me think. It's between C and B. I don't think he's like, if every tank is open, you're just not picking Strange. Like he's just not a character you'd play. But with triple tank, like I said, he's needed. But I think if we're running off of a 2-2-2 basis, Strange is just kind of shit, honestly.
Yeah.
The only thing is maybe if double flyer is the meta, like Storm Torch is really OP. I think Wanda does counter the flyers. She's probably the best DPS into them, other than like the Hela or maybe the Widow, or if she actually becomes prevalent in the meta. But I just don't know how good Wanda is overall. She hasn't really seen a lot of play in ranked games or in comp that I've seen. So if Wanda becomes good and that team up is needed, maybe Strange goes up a little bit. But I think for the current meta that I'm seeing, he's just one of the worst tanks.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. I actually haven't seen him that much in my game either. So I think you're kind of spot on with where he's at right now. Groot. I'm surprised Groot didn't get any nerfs this season, but definitely want to hear your opinions on his counters and who he counters. We're just going down the list.
So his counters are definitely Wolverine. If you're in a game and you can play Wolf, I think you do want to play Wolf. Bucky is super needed. If you're going to play, especially in a Wolf mirror, you pretty much always need to have a Bucky because the threat of that hook is very important. It stalls the Groot's push. It stalls the Groot's pulls. Makes his life hell. If you do hook him, he's got like nothing to do. Loki is really good into Groot. I think you always need a Loki to on either side of the Groot comp. Like if your team's playing Groot and their team's playing Groot, both teams should have a Loki because Loki's wall break is good, and the green is really good for the Groot trade. Basically, what I'm saying is, if there's a Groot open, both teams are probably going to have Groot, and you need to have these characters that threaten the Groot. So Loki and Bucky are probably the top two that I would make sure you pick in that comp. And then who he counters, he's really good into Mag. Like if the enemy team, for whatever reason, doesn't pick Groot, he's good into Mag. He's good into Emma. He's really good into Thing. He's good into Strange because you force his shift cooldown, which is like a 15-second CD. I mean, he's just OP. Yeah. Let's be honest. He's just like the best tank. I don't even think it's close to contention.
Really?
Yeah, you just pick this character if it's open, in my opinion.
Okay. And that goes for every map? I mean, this kind of
goes for every map. There's just not like, there's maps where it's harder to get walls. Right. Sure. Like Hall of Dajalia, it's a little bit harder to wall. Shin Shibuya, it's really easy to wall. Royal Palace, like that donut map. But Royal Palace is like out of the game, so I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. Sometimes you'll see it in tournament play. Let me think. Let me go down like the list of maps.
I know Yggdrasil, he's like pretty good on, right?
Oh yeah, Yggdrasil Path, he's really good. Burn It T'Challa, he's good. Midtown, like Hell's Heaven, he's great. I think the only hard map would be like Central Park, Second Point. There's like dynamic high grounds you can use to kind of get around him. Burn into T'Challa a little bit in ways can be a tough map for him, but he's like, you just pick him because his ult's just so strong. It pretty much always forces a support ult, and you can still kill through the support ults. So I think if Groot's open, regardless of map, you're picking this character.
Your scrim knowledge is really showing because I don't know if I could ever remember all those names. For the maps, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm picturing them in my head, like I know what you're talking about. I'm like, I don't remember the name of that map. That scrim knowledge is showing a lot. Okay, cool. And then like any specific characters that they just pair better with than others, or like you don't really care?
I spoke on this earlier. I think it is just Groot Mag still. I think that's just the best tank duo. Groot Emma's the fallback, and then I would say you could maybe do Groot Cap or Groot Venom. But I think if Emma and Mag are both out of the game, you probably just fall back to Strange just because you kind of need a shield tank just to take space. Because Groot does take space okay, but it's kind of bound to that big wall cooldown. And those are sometimes pretty easy to break. So having him with another shield tank to either swing on an off angle, peel for your back line, or just help you take space in the neutral is really good. So I think Mag, Emma, then Strange, and either Thing or Captain would probably be the fallback to those three.
Sounds good. So best time to pick this character is all the time. Is pretty much what you're
just playing Groot.
Gotcha. And you think that he's probably the best tank in the game right now?
Yeah, I would put him at like the S+ tier. He's definitely just like always pick. If I had to pick one tank, he is the best tank.
Okay, bet, cool. See, this is why we make the tier right there. That's good. Magneto. Where are we going with Magneto? What do we think his counters are, and what do we think are his best matchups?
So he does get countered by the Groot, but you kind of need him with the Groot mirror. And like I said, you're always picking Groot, so you're not really going to avoid him when the Groot's open. Emma does pretty good into him, surprisingly. That's why it's like I'm not 100% sure if Groot Emma or Groot Mag is the best tank line right now. Because the Emma does just choke slam the Magneto when he goes to take space. And then to counteract, like, there are counters to him, but I don't think any of them are good enough to be like, oh yeah, you see a Magneto and you pick that character, right? Like, Torch is pretty good because the Magneto can't really shoot him, can't really like kill him in the sky, but then his ult gets countered by the Mag. So you're kind of negate himself. Hawkeye, long range character, can't really get shot, but then his ult gets negated, and if he does go to take space, he can just get like insta one-shot killed, right? So there are these characters that do a little bit better, but I don't think you're going to switch your DPS pick from those Hellas or from those Psylocks or Star-Lords, whatever you're currently playing, to counter the Magneto. You're just kind of picking what you want, and that Magneto's just in the game.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming, this kind of is the same with Groot, but like he doesn't really have a best map. You're kind of just like picking him as one of the best shield tanks right now.
Yeah,
like,
you're just picking this character all the time, pretty much. Okay. I think Still, currently, he edges out Emma by a little bit in viability when it comes to all team comps. And you definitely need to pick him if there's a bubble target. So if you're going to play that Iron Fist comp, even if it's with Groot and not with the Hulk, you're picking Magneto over Emma. If you're going to play Star-Lord, you're picking Magneto over Emma. Basically, if there's anything for you to use your bubble for offensively, you're going to be picking Magneto over the Emma. And then maybe if you're running like a double flyer comp or a Hella Hawkeye comp where they don't really need the bubble as much on the offensive, then you could maybe swap over to the Emma and be like, well, I feel more comfortable taking space on this character, or I feel like I can be a little bit more dynamic on my off angle and go kill their backline easier. Those would be the times I would pick Emma over Mag with like a Groot or another character as your main tank.
How about us healers? Why don't we get bubble? What about those defensive bubbles?
The defensive bubble is good. And that's why Mag probably still is better than Emma, because you can just save somebody's life. You know, if they've got an Iron Fist and you've got an Iron Fist, but they go first, and you can just bubble whatever the Iron Fist goes on, whether that's you, like you as yourself, self-bubble, or your Cloak and Dagger gets gone on, your Loki gets gone on, or hell, even your Rocket gets gone on. Like, that bubble is still really strong. So yeah, he's pretty much just always good.
And you also have that team up with Emma too. And then like you yeah,
you can bubble. You always want to pop that before you use your bubble cooldown, because if you bubble the Emma or whoever, then you get a bubble yourself from your Magneto copy. So that team up is super, super strong if you're running that double shield.
Yeah, absolutely. Where would you rate him right now in the current meta?
I would say right above Emma in the S tier.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. He's just more dynamic, and you kind of need him for a lot of those comps. So I think he's just slightly edges out. But like I said, if you're not running those comps, then maybe Emma is a better pick.
Okay. No, that's definitely fair. Peni. I know Peni got some buffs recently. Who does Peni counter, if anybody? I mean, Peni counters dive, right? Like, let's just start with that. Peni counters dive?
Yeah, I mean, Penny's like the anti-dive hero. Yeah. She's really good to counter those ultimates or to stop those pushes. Like the Captain America, I just don't ever see this character. This character has not been picked more than twice in my like 300 scrim hours or whatever I've got for scrim hours now. And it's only like been the Spider Island spawn hold where there was that bug. You know that little bell tower?
Yeah,
and it would like drop. Yeah, it would just sit in the bell tower. So like that was the only time I saw that character, is when her shift mine was indestructible. So it's like, okay. So without a bug, she's pretty mediocre. I do think, however, there is a place for this character somewhere in this meta. I just don't know where yet. Because there are these Penny Parker one-trick players in high elo. There's like 4 of them or 8 of them now that do really good in all games, playing like a flank Penny playstyle and just using those webs to self-heal. But I just don't know where it is.
Okay.
So I can't really speak on it. I think overall in the meta, she's just kind of bad. Like you don't really pick Penny. Even if you're trying to do anti-dive and like blow up the enemies, it's not great. I will say best character to pick it into is Wolverine, because he cannot go for pins and he just can't kill your shift mine, your big arachno mine.
Wait, why can't he go for pins?
Well, if you just put up your shift and you have like a bunch of mines around your feet and he goes for a pin, he just like insta explodes.
Okay. Yeah.
So you basically just full negate, and you can just web him when because he uses his amp and goes like rah, and like he's coming in. So you just like go for a snare on him right there, and his damage reduction is going to be down before it actually matters.
Okay. And so when it comes to like maps and stuff like that, like you said, it was just that like Tokyo 99 map that was pretty much the best map that probably Penny was on.
Yeah, I think Spider Islands is one of the better ones. There's like one spot on Yggdrasil Path where you can put it, you know, like when you get the cart around the first corner on the first point, and there's like that little staircase that goes down a little bit.
Yeah, like a downward slope.
Yeah, I saw a Penny put their mine like right below that, and it was kind of hard to kill. So like that one spot, it can be okay. Clintar, maybe you could find a cool spot. It's basically like you just have to theory craft the mine spots.
Yeah.
And know like every single corner where to place your mine to get the best value out of it. So maybe if I was to VOD review and like fully mark out 40 different spots for Penny, she'd be good on defense on some of these maps, but it's hard to say without fully looking into it and seeing like, oh, they can just kill that mine by doing this or that. etc.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is best times to pick Penny or never unless you theorycraft. That's
Yeah,
kind
I, defensive for sure. Never like attack. And Dom, she's like okay as a flank Penny Parker character.
yeah. There's just like better picks that do what she probably wants to do, but better and more, right?
Yeah, it just and her ult is just terrible. That honestly might be the main part. Like her
Okay.
neutral fight isn't awful. It can be okay, but she just has like the worst ult in the tank lineup. Like it just does nothing.
What would be a pick that you would substitute for Penny? Say, for example, you want to do like I don't know. Say your healers are getting dove like crazy. You need a tank to fall back and play that. What would you like?
I
Sub
would
in?
say Emma, Thing, and then Magneto would be like the peel characters.
Okay, gotcha. And so, do I even need to ask you where Penny's
No,
going, or
she's probably like the worst. Yeah,
okay, that's fair.
she's just terrible.
Speaking of, well, non-terrible characters, I feel like the Thing's pretty good right now, but I mean, who are some characters that counter Thing? Earlier you mentioned Groot was really good in the Thing, right?
Yes, Groot is really good in the Thing.
Okay.
Emma is great in the Thing because, as we know, Emma's charge works off of dealing damage, and Thing is just a brute rock just standing there taking damage, right? So he is a little bit worse after Emma got added into the game. He
Yeah.
kind of falls down the list a little bit. Long range characters are also pretty good into him. Wolf, even though he can't pin, is still pretty okay into the character. It's like a weird counter. It's like if the Thing gets his shift off on the Wolf, then the Thing counters the Wolf. But if the Wolf is able to like pin and stun him, then Wolf is actually still fine in the Thing.
Okay.
Especially if he gets like a bubble. So it's kind of like both characters counter each other thing. He does pretty bad into Hela, I would say. Terrible into Torch. Like you pretty much have to get Torch out of the game if you're gonna play Thing in any way. That character just absolutely melts him. Pretty bad into Storm. And then he does good into these dive comps. So if they're playing like Venom Spidey, he does really good. He's good into the Iron Fist to neutralize his kick potential. And he's just good if characters get banned, really. It's like if Groot Mag and Groot Emma are gone, like if two of those three characters on the top of the list are gone, then you fall back to Thing. That's kind of the way that he fits into the meta, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about him more of like in terms of like I guess who he counters because he also is really good into dive, right? Into like BP, for example, who can't use his dashes or like Magic Psylocke. Would you say he's really good to be picked when your healers are just getting dove and he's pretty decent?
Yeah, if you're playing ranked and you're like, oh, I need to like help my backline and Groot's just not working, I would just slide over to Thing. Like he is just probably the best anti-dive peel you could, or just best peel in general, because you could just pack back to your backline, shift the ground, and they just can't use any movement ability, so they're screwed. But like overall, if you're just looking at it from like when you would pick this character, it pretty much is just like two of those top three tanks being banned, whether it be the Mag and the Emma, and then you're playing Thing with Groot, or it's the Emma and the Groot, and you're playing Thing with Mag. They would be the times I would pick him.
Okay, gotcha. And so like maps and all that kind of stuff don't matter.
Not really. It's more just like what goes through in the ban phase, or if you need to play super anti-dive.
That's fair. Where would you rate him right now?
I would say he's probably just the A tier tank, because he is just that fallback character. He is great when the characters get banned, but if everything's open, you're probably just not going to see him, because those top three characters are just so OP.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a fallback character too, you know? Thor. Thor also got some buffs just like Hulk did. I think he got some similar ones too, where he got like movement speed buff from like 600 to 650.
Yeah, he got that movement speed, got that health.
Yeah, do you think... Sorry,
feels a little bit better overall.
Okay, yeah. And so what would be his like, top counters and picks he's good into?
I would say he's another anti-dive character, not as good as Thing. He really struggles into any range at all, because he just can't do anything. Any high ground potential, any poke out character like the Psylocke, the Star-Lord, all those characters he's kind of just meh into. If you can find a way to like go mark the Hela, he can be okay. But honestly, I just don't really see where this character fits in, especially after losing the Cap team up. He doesn't really help Cap on his dives. So you're not really like picking him like, oh, we can run Cap Thor and we could play Thor frontline, or like triple tank with mag cap Thor and our cap dives, and our Thor's like our DPS guy, our pseudo DPS, and our mag's main tank. It's like, it's not a lot of reasons to pick this guy as of right now.
Okay, so you're saying that like pretty much why pick Thor when like these other dive tanks are better, aka like Cap or like maybe Hulk or somebody like that?
Yeah,
Like
he just doesn't provide as much as the like other player. Like you can play double bubble with Hulk, so he's not as good as Hulk. Cap is the best attention trader, I would say, so he doesn't fit the attention trade style. Mag marks an angle better. Emma dives the backline harder. Venom dives the backline harder. You know, even like Strange does something better. It's just like, I don't know. I can't really see the reason why you would pick him over other characters.
Yeah, maybe as like a fallback tank if like those are banned for what they wouldn't be banned, but if they are because say the enemy team hates dive, maybe like you fall back onto the Thor.
If I would say if Thing gets banned and you really need to play anti-dive, he is better anti-dive than Emma, Mag, or Groot, but not to the extent where I would necessarily pick him. Like I don't think he's better than those characters or close enough to really justify. Like Thing is pretty close to that upper three, to where like if you're picking him for anti-dive, you're still gonna do a lot, right? Like he's still got a really good ultimate, he's still got a lot of HP, can control space really well. But Thor doesn't really have any of that. He's like just anti-dive. He's like just anti-dive or maybe angle marking. So even though he is the fallback to Thing, if your team's getting like super dove, I don't think it's necessarily worth it. But yeah, that would be the time that I would pick him, is if you're good at him and you need to play anti-dive.
Well, and so just ending off with this with Thor. So what makes him so good at anti-dive again? Like he's like his ability to essentially dash somebody away, right? And then
yeah, you can pretty much just push someone away. He's good at like taking frontline trades too. Like in the neutral, if they're playing a dive comp, they have downtime. So when they have that downtime, you can really apply a lot of pressure to a Magneto or a Groot and like push them out of position. But it's really just the F. The F on him, where you engage your full Thor force, just has so much damage. It's like one of the higher damage. I don't know if it's more than Emma in diamond form. If you were to like kick somebody into a wall, like choke slam a BP and kick him into a wall, might be less damage than that. But he does just have like higher damage. So that's probably what makes him the best anti-dive, I would say. Or like up there in the anti-dive.
That is so interesting. I never like really would have thought that he was considered an anti-dive character. I'm gonna look at him in like a new light now because of this conversation.
Oh, and the Thor 4 and the E, the slow is really good. Because you can just put that up and that you like can't leave pretty much.
Okay, gotcha. And so where would you rate him right now?
Ooh. He might just be worse than Peni.
Wow, I didn't think that was possible, but all right.
Nah, I mean, like I'm just thinking about it. Like I could see a world where Peni Parker finds her way into the meta on certain maps on defense. I just can't see why you would pick Thor.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing he brings to any team comp that those like 3-6 tanks above him bring. Like they just bring more in any facet. So I just don't think you're really picking Thor.
That's fair. All right. Well, last but not least, we have Venom. Venom was actually really good last season too, going into this season. Who are some characters that are really good into Venom, and who are some characters that Venom is really good into?
So, 4 counters for Venom. It's kind of hard to say because it like changes based on the comp you run. But I would say overall, I think Human Torch is good into him. I think Namor is still pretty solid, but you do need the Hulk team up. So, that being said, it's a little bit harder to pick Namor now because it's not just playing Luna. Iron Fist is good into him, but you're not necessarily just picking Iron Fist to counter him.
Yeah.
I would say Punny is great if you're running ammo, but Punny does fall off a little bit. I think Bucky's probably one of the main characters you would actually pick to counter him that is also good in the meta. And Wolverine, if you want to just play like anti-dive Wolverine, can be good. And then Emma Frost owns this character.
Yeah.
Groot can separate the enemy team while they're trying to connect with his dive. So he's just owns this character. Basically, if Groot's in the game, you're not picking Venom. That's just like that's just the rule. Like you're not playing a Groot Venom dive. for your team, and you don't want to play Venom into a Groot comp. It's just like impossible.
Yeah.
So if Groot's in the game, GG, get off Venom, go home, go to bed. Like, don't do that at all.
Do you have any thoughts on like Squirrel Girl into Venom, or actually just into Dive in general?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
want to get
No, the Squirrel Girl is good. Yeah, I actually just forgot that she existed because I haven't seen her in so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is really good into anti-dive and into Groot, actually. But she's just not. Her ult is so bad that it just makes her a terrible character, because there's like other DPS ults are gonna force a support ult, and hers is just gonna like maybe accidentally finish off a kill that you were already gonna secure.
Yeah. I totally get that. And for Venom, best maps. I mean, maybe maps that are like more open that you can kind of like swing a little bit more on.
Yeah, he is a very map dependent hero. He might actually be the only tank where it's like, ooh, don't pick him there kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'll actually just go through the maps like one by one.
Sure.
Path, Yggdrasil Path, the payload map. He's really good for defense, and he's pretty good for attack. So you can pick him on that map. Royal Palace, he's okay, but you do have to play for more swing engages. Typically with Venom, just to like give a quick Venom guide, you don't want to be swinging in. You need to be swinging out. So that way you can keep as much uptime as possible in the fight. So if you do have to swing in on a map, it's a like more full committal dive. But on Royal Palace, you do have to. That map is out of the game in competitive play, but sometimes you will see it if you play in tournaments. Shin Shibuya, another map out of competitive play, but he's really good on defense for first point, defense for second point, and he's okay on third defense point. And then on attack, he's pretty bad on first point attack, good on second point attack, and good on third point attack. Spider Islands, I would never pick this hero. I've never seen a Venom work on this map unless 40 characters are banned. So don't do it on that map. That's the full payload one, by the way, for anyone wondering, because I know people just call them both Tokyo 2029 or 2099.
Yeah, that's what I do, because I don't know the names.
Burn It T'Challa, the Dom Wakanda map. He's okay, but he's terrible on the waterfall point. Absolutely terrible. So I don't think I would really pick this character on Burn It T'Challa.
Mm-hmm.
Hall of Djalia, his best map. Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda is the top name, for those wondering. That's his best map by far. I would just pick him on both sides. Obviously, if Groot's banned, because Groot does own. That might be the only map where you can pick Venom into Groot, and it'd be like, okay, because it's not necessarily a great Groot map. Clintar, great on Clintar for both attack and defense. Hell's Heaven, he's good on that wide open map. Kind of mediocre on the other two. So I don't think I would pick him. Midtown, he's just terrible. And like, you can play him. It's not as bad as Burn It T'Challa, but I don't think I would. Central Park, I think it's just ass. Might be like the worst map. Krakoa, I've only played twice, so I can't say for certain, but I think it's okay. I think it's like an average map for him. Not Clintar or Hall of Djalia level, but not like Burn It T'Challa or Midtown bad. Like, just in the middle completely.
Mm. And
so that would be the maps.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I'm just like listening. I'm like, okay, yeah. Any more maps in your brain, Alfie? Anything you know that we don't know? And in terms of pair, probably just what with Spider-Man, right? Like, because of the team up.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man is the best dive character if you can play him. Psylocke is still pretty good with it, but you do have to run the Emma to make the Psylocke good. And I think that Mag still outclasses the Emma for the dive comp. Like, you just need the bubble to self-sustain and like take space.
Mm-hmm.
And the connect is just easier because he's got more range. I also think Venom is good just by himself, solo dive, kind of the same way that Cap could work with solo dive, just attention trade backline, hard force them out. So you could still pick him without any diver. You could run like hella Iron Fist. And the Iron Fist is like, people think he's a diver, but he really is just like a brawl tank buster because he kind of needs a bubble. So you need to be within range of your mag. But he can also like choose to rando dive with the Venom. So I would say with Iron Fist, and you're playing attention trade / dive, and then Psylocke or Spider-Man, you're playing like full dive, and then double poke, you're playing attention trade. Those would be the 3 team comps.
Great. No, sounds good. And where would you place him?
I think he's right. He's like tied with Thing. Like, those characters are just smushed together, because the team comps right now for tanks, if we wanted to just go down that list, is like Groot Mag / Groot Emma, depending on if one of those get banned or what you're feeling. And then it's like Emma Mag is number 2. And then map dependent, Mag Venom can be a little bit better than Emma Mag, like on that Clintar or that Hall of the Jollia. But most of the time, Emma Mag are still better and might still be better on those maps.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, if Emma got banned or Mag got banned and Groot got banned, like you just got one of those top 3, then you could see Mag Venom being the best team comp in the game for tanks, or Mag Thing, depending on either map or team play style or team comp or enemy comp, whatever, all of the above, right? Like just all encompassing.
Yeah. That would actually be an interesting team comp, Mag Thing. I don't know if I've seen that, but that sounds kind of fire.
Yeah, it's really good. People were playing it a lot towards the end of last season.
Okay.
Because Groot was just getting like full banned out.
Yeah.
It was like the best fallback comp other than Dive. It was like Groot Mag and then Mag Thing or Mag Venom would be the fallback.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So here's our complete tier list. Groot at the top. I mean, he kind of looks like he's at the top too. Like if you're just looking at this, you know, he's like, yeah, I'm him.
Yeah, man is him.
Yeah, yo, facts. And that's why I said I was surprised he didn't get any nerfs this season, but I don't know. It's interesting. Cool. Is there anything else that like you want to add, or I mean, I think we covered a ton, so I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I mean, this list, I would say, for tanks, the role is definitely more important to be picking those meta characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the tier list video we mentioned that like a lot of different things can be good, but if you really do want to climb on tank, you pretty much just have to learn whatever's meta. So like if Groot just became terrible and Captain America became the best tank, you just have to play Captain as a tank player. Like you can't just like ignore the character. And if you're like a Thor one-trick player right now and you want to climb, like you are probably going to struggle. You might still do okay in ranked, but like if you're going to push for that comp scene level or those upper ranks like top 500, you're not really going to be able to do it on Thor, or you're just going to make your life hell, right? It's just going to be way harder because you can't really solo tank on some of these characters. So I would say try your best as a tank player to learn the meta, and if the meta shifts, then shift your play style as well.
Yeah. And after you play a bunch of different metas, then you'll like know how to play every single tank.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
And then like, you know, try and fill around, like use your other, if you do have a tank player, because I know from personal experience as well, like you're solo tanking in a lot of ranked games, especially I imagine in lower ranks, it's probably even worse. So when you do get lucky enough to get another tank player, try and like fill around them, right? If it's like a Mag player, well, maybe it's finally your chance to play Groot. Because like I said, Groot solo tank is kind of hard, even though he is the best tank. It is a little bit harder to play him by himself. So you'll probably be playing like Mag or Emma in a lot of your solo tank games, just because you need a shield. But when you actually get a chance to play Groot, or he doesn't get banned, then like use that time to play Groot and learn Groot. Same thing with Thing. Like if you've got a Mag player and Groot's banned, like okay, well maybe try something out. You know, get some time under your belt. Same like Venom as well. I know it's like impossible to pick Venom unless you have like 14 different stars aligned for you in the rank scene. So when you actually see those stars align, like you have a Spider-Man player, like, all right, let's play some Venom, right? Yeah. And you have maybe a Mag or an Emma. So use those opportunities wisely when they actually show up.
Yeah, I think that's some excellent advice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for blessing us with all this nice tank advice, Alfie. No, man, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on and teaching us about tank. It also allows me to yell at more people that they don't know what they're doing on this role, which is also great. Yeah.
Sorry for rambling a bit, but there's definitely a lot to talk about when it comes to tank. A lot of dynamics. So
yeah, I mean, that's what these videos are for, you know, for the rambling, for people that want to hear it as well. If people want to skip to certain sections, maybe they just care about Groot, for example, they can do that. So, you know, really appreciate all the information. Thank you so much.
Of course. It was super fun.